Breaking today, an explosion on Rainbow Bridge at the U.S.-Canada border. Reports indicate that 2 have been left dead and 1 injured. Multiple border entries in western New York between Canada and the U.S. are now closed as a result, as local and federal law enforcement officials investigate. It is unclear at this point whether the explosion was intentional or an accident. NTD's Melina Weisskop's been tracking this for us. So, Melina, what happened here and what do we know up until this point?
Well, Steve, what we do know is that the details around this incident are very fluid. That's the language that we've heard from the FBI since after the incident happened earlier today. And that's for a good reason, because, some of the details that are coming out have now actually flip-flopped. So we originally thought that this was a car headed from Canada over to the U.S. side. Now, after the new footage was released, we're seeing that it was actually a car headed from the U.S. over to Canada. What we do know, though, is that explosion did happen on the U.S. side, and eyewitnesses and footage that was released showed that this explosion happened after a car was traveling at an extremely high speed, so high, in fact, that it actually went airborne before crashing into a security checkpoint and exploding, and then, of course, killing those 2 passengers that were in the car. Now, one thing that we do know about this is that law enforcement, of course, like we mentioned at the beginning, is very careful not to give more details about the motives as they're continuing to investigate this issue. That's especially the case right now as we're seeing heightened senses over terrorism as that war is dragging on between Israel and Hamas. And we know that that's very triggering here for many folks in the U.S. But of course, we have seen reports saying that they did search the car and they didn't find any bombs, although law enforcement has been very shielded about coming out with details as more information comes out. So we are monitoring to see what exactly they're finding if they do, in fact, decide to give more information. It seems like they're just waiting to make sure they know everything before they are telling us what they do know about it, especially because right now it is the holiday. It is also with the terrorist threats that we're seeing around the world. It could provide some triggering emotions for many people. Now, Canada's President, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, did speak to an assembly today after this accident happened, and he just explained that he's working with the U.S. We'll show you what he had to say just moments after today's incident.
I've been briefed by the NSIA and the Minister of Public Safety. CBSA, RCMP, and Transport Canada are all fully engaged in providing the necessary support. There are a lot of questions, and we are following up to try and get as many answers as rapidly as possible. We are in close contact with U.S. officials, and we'll continue to work closely with them.
And New York's governor is headed over to Buffalo right now to get an inside take on what exactly happened there. The White House says the president has been briefed on it, and White House officials are continuing to monitor the situation. As for the Buffalo International Airport, while they're heightening their security over there, every single car that comes in is being inspected for the possibility of bombs. They've also canceled any departing and arriving flights into that international airport. Steve?
We'll certainly be continuing to follow this story closely. NTD's Melina Weisskop, thank you. And more good news for former President Trump in a major poll. Meanwhile, not so great news coming out of Congress, with dozens of lawmakers resigning. Some out of frustration. NTD's Arian Pazdar has an election update.
Former President Trump is widening his lead over President Biden in a hypothetical 2024 matchup. That's according to the prominent Emerson College poll. In November last year, the poll found that Biden was leading over Trump with 45 to 41%. A month ago, Trump was leading with 47 to 45%. Now, Trump's lead increased by 2 points to 47 to 43%. Biden took a big hit in support among minorities, losing a total of 26 percentage points over the last year. Meanwhile at Congress, California Representative Anna Eshoo this week announced that she's stepping down after 3 decades. So far, over 30 lawmakers this year announced that they're not seeking re-election. This comes after 2 exhausting House Speaker races, 2 near government shutdowns, and multiple attempts to impeach, censor, or expel officials. And all that while Congress is still in its first session. Various lawmakers are disappointed with the way things are going on the Hill. Representative Earl Blumenauer, who has been in Congress for over 25 years, told Punchbowl News, "It's insane and it adds no value to my life. The things I care about, I can do better not here." Now over to local elections. In South Carolina, the city of Charleston voted for a Republican mayor for the first time since 1877. That's almost 150 years. Former South Carolina GOP Representative William Coxwell won the race on Tuesday. And in New York, former Governor Andrew Cuomo is reportedly considering running for mayor of New York City. That's according to Politico, which says that Cuomo might run if current Mayor Eric Adams resigns or decides not to run for re-election. Ariane Pastar, NTD News.
And Israel staying firm on its goal to defeat Hamas terrorists. That says a pause in fighting is set to bring 50 hostages home, including some Americans. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent, Iris Tao. Good evening, Iris. Tell us about the deal and how the White House is reacting.
Good evening to you, Steve. Israel and Hamas have agreed to a temporary ceasefire for at least 4 days, and that's to let in aid and also to free some 50 hostages held by Hamas terrorists in exchange for some 150 Palestinians held in Israeli jails. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying today that Israel will resume fighting right after the pause and that it remains Israel's goal to eliminate Hamas and also to free all hostages. A spokesperson for the IDF said this today. Watch.
We will be standing strong and prepared because we know Hamas have a dubious record with regard to holding fire in the past. They've utilized these types of pauses in the past to conduct more killing and abduction. So we need to be very strong in our defensive positions.
This hostage deal comes after weeks of intense negotiations by not only Israel and Hamas, but also the U.S., Qatar, and Egypt. The White House says that President Biden has also been personally engaged in this process almost hour by hour. And in a statement, President Biden says he's extraordinarily gratified that some hostages will finally be reunited with their families. Among the ones to be released, there are 3 Americans, including 2 American women and 1 toddler who's turning 4 this upcoming Friday. But the White House says it remains very urgent to secure the release of any remaining American hostages. Watch.
We do not have proof of life for all of the hostages. Certainly, we know that there have been some who have been found by the IDF who have been killed tragically during the course of this. And that's what underscores the imperative of getting all of these people out of Gaza as soon as possible.
And President Biden says he will not stop until all American hostages are freed. And the White House saying that it has to continue to monitor the situation, including how this deal is carried out very closely, especially as none of this is actually done until people actually cross the border to get out of Gaza. Back to you.
NTD's Iris Tao reporting from the White House. Thank you, Iris. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.